The overhead lights in the dining room buzzed with a harsh, sterile hum, making the whole scene feel like a hospital waiting room. The air was thick with a tension you could almost taste, and the silence was a physical weight pressing down on my shoulders. I stared at my plate, at the dry, overcooked roast beef. I didn't want to be here, but attendance was mandatory. It was family, after all. And then, in the span of a single heartbeat, the fragile peace shattered. Noah, my 9-year-old nephew, leaned over the mahogany table. He wasn't reaching for the gravy or the bread basket. His eyes, dark and serious, locked onto mine. Then he puckered his lips and deliberately launched a glob of spit that landed directly in the center of my garlic mashed potatoes. He didn't flinch. He didn't look ashamed. He just held my gaze and smirked. "Grandpa said you had it coming," he announced, his voice ringing with a chilling clarity. I was frozen in my chair. I waited for my mother to gasp. I waited for my sister to snatch his arm and hiss his name. But instead, Chloe, his mother, lifted a hand to her mouth, not in shock, but to conceal a cruel, private smile. Leo, my brother and Noah's father, didn't even bother to look up from his plate. He just kept on chewing his food. And my mother, Eleanor, the matriarch, simply gave her grandson a look of quiet, unmistakable approval. A low chuckle started, then another. Soon they were all snickering, a chorus of mockery aimed directly at me. In that suffocating moment, a cold, brutal truth crashed over me. I wasn't at a table with my family. I was in a den of wolves, and I was their entertainment. But before we get any further into this, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to hear from you. I pushed my chair back, the legs screaming in protest against the polished hardwood floor. The sound was jarring, but no one even flinched. They were still laughing, their amusement echoing off the walls and striking me squarely in the chest. I glanced down at my hands. They were trembling, not just a little tremor, but a violent, uncontrollable vibration. I squeezed them into tight fists, willing them to be still, but it was no use. I looked at Eleanor, my mother, sitting in her usual place at the head of the table. She picked up her silverware with practiced grace, sliced a small, precise piece of roast beef, and placed it in her mouth, chewing with a detached, deliberate slowness. She never once looked at me. She never glanced at the defiled food on my plate. It was a masterclass in erasure, as if I had ceased to exist. It was the most profound invisibility I had ever felt. My own mother, watching her grandson humiliate me and choosing to see nothing. "Maya, for heaven's sake, sit down," Chloe said, her voice dripping with condescension as she dabbed a tear of mirth from the corner of her eye. "Don't be so dramatic. It was a joke. Noah's just being a boy." "Yeah, Aunt Maya," Leo mumbled through a mouthful of food. "Lighten up. You know how kids are." I looked at them, really looked, as if for the first time. I saw the professionally done balayage in Chloe's hair that I had paid for as a birthday gift. I saw the sleek, expensive watch on Leo's wrist that I'd bought him for his graduation. I saw the new silk drapes framing the dining room window, the ones I had ordered for my mother because she'd complained the old ones were drab. A frigid realization settled deep in my bones. I wasn't a person to them. I wasn't a daughter or a sister. I was a resource, a utility. I was their emergency fund, their emotional punching bag. I tried to form words, but my throat was a knot of unshed tears and rage. It felt like I had swallowed a rock. I refused to give them the satisfaction of a broken voice or a single tear. I had cried in front of them my entire life, and it had only ever earned me their contempt. Crying was a weakness they exploited, so I said nothing. I just turned my back on them. "Where are you going?" my mother asked, her tone flat and dismissive, the same one she used on nuisance callers. "We haven't had dessert. I made your favorite apple crumble." My favorite, the dessert she only ever made when she was about to ask for a significant favor. I kept walking, moving through the hallway to the front door. My shoes, a pair of practical black flats, were sitting neatly by the entrance. I had taken them off as instructed to protect my mother's precious beige carpet. I looked at them, then at the front door. If I stopped to put them on, I'd have to bend down. I'd have to prolong this. I'd have to listen to their fading laughter for another 10 seconds. I couldn't bear to be in that house for one more second. I snatched my bag from the coat rack and pulled the door open. The night air was a shock to my system. It was late autumn, and a sharp wind cut through my thin sweater. I stepped onto the porch, then down onto the cold, hard concrete of the walkway. I was barefoot. The cold was stunning, like stepping onto a sheet of ice. The rough surface of the concrete bit into the soft soles of my feet. A small gasp escaped my lips, but I didn't stop. I walked past the rose bushes I had meticulously planted for my mother last spring. I walked past Leo's gleaming SUV, which I knew was running on fumes because he never put gas in it until the warning light had been on for days. I finally reached my own sensible, paid-for sedan. My feet were already beginning to feel numb. I fumbled in my bag for my keys, my hands shaking so badly that I dropped them. They clattered on the asphalt with a sound that felt ridiculously loud in the quiet street. "Perfect," I muttered. "Just perfect." As I bent to retrieve them, I chanced a look back at the house. The dining room window was a warm, yellow rectangle of light. I could see their dark shapes moving inside. They were still at the table. Not one of them had gotten up. Not one of them had come to the door to see if I was okay. They were finishing their roast beef and mashed potatoes as if nothing had happened. As if their daughter, their sister, had not just walked out barefoot into the freezing night. I unlocked the car, slid inside, and slammed the door. The sudden silence was a blessing. I locked the doors, a reflex I didn't question. I just sat there, my breathing ragged, my breath fogging up the windshield. I put the key into the ignition but didn't turn it. I looked down at my feet. They were red and smudged with dirt. I tried to curl my toes and winced. The pain was real, a sharp, definite sensation. The ache in my heart was a confusing, overwhelming fog, but the pain in my feet was a clear grounding signal. I started the engine and reversed out of the driveway, my tires crunching on the asphalt. I didn't look back. I drove down the familiar street, past the homes of people who had known me since I was a girl. Did they know? Did they ever hear the arguments, the subtle cruelty that seeped through the walls of the pristine house on the corner? Did they have any idea that the Harrison family was rotten to its core? I turned onto the main road, heading for the highway. My vision was swimming. I blinked hard, and a hot tear finally escaped, tracing a path down my cheek. I wiped it away with the back of my hand, furious with myself. "Stop it," I commanded. "Do not cry for them, not one more tear." But the dam of memory had broken. I remembered being 15 after I'd forgotten to pick up my mother's dry cleaning. She'd grounded me for a month. She hadn't asked if I had too much homework or if I was feeling unwell. She just cared about her favorite blouse. I remembered Chloe's destination wedding in Mexico. I'd used my entire bonus to pay for her bachelorette week because she insisted on an all-inclusive luxury resort. I paid for her suite, the spa treatments, the endless cocktails. During her wedding toast, she thanked her friends her parents, her new in-laws. She even thanked the hotel staff. She never mentioned my name. I remembered when Leo lost his first real job. My father had blamed me. He said I should have helped him with his resume, that I should have been mentoring him. Leo was 2 years older than me, but somehow it was always my fault. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles shining white in the darkness of the car. The road stretched out, a black, empty ribbon. I was driving too fast, but I didn't care. There was a new feeling rising in my chest, displacing the sadness. It was hot, it was heavy, and it was pure, undiluted rage. For 33 years, I had done everything I could to be the good one, the responsible daughter, the reliable sister. I excelled in school. I built a career as a systems analyst. I loaned them money without question. I was their unpaid therapist, their on-call babysitter. I never, ever said no. I had operated under the delusion that if I was useful enough, if I gave enough, one day they would finally love me. One day they would look at me and say, "Good job, Maya. We're proud of you, Maya." But tonight, Noah spat in my food. And they laughed. That was their answer. That was the final, definitive answer to the question that had haunted my entire existence. Did they love me? No. The clarity of it was more shocking than the cold. They didn't love me. They used me. They tolerated me as long as I was useful. But there was no love. I exited the highway and drove into the parking lot of my apartment building. It was a modest, functional place. I paid for it all by myself. My family mockingly called it the shoebox. They said I was isolating myself. But tonight, as I looked at the simple brick facade, it looked like a fortress. It looked like a castle. I parked in my assigned spot and killed the engine. I sat in the darkness, the silence of the car a heavy blanket. My feet were beginning to throb as circulation returned. I looked at my purse on the passenger seat. My phone was in there. I was sure it would be buzzing with messages soon. Or maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't even bother. I got out of the car, the pavement still freezing against my bare feet, but I barely registered it. I walked up the 2 flights of stairs to my unit. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and was greeted by the warm, still air of my own space. It smelled of coffee and clean laundry. It smelled like home. I shut the door, shot the deadbolt, and slid the chain lock into place. I leaned my back against the solid wood and slid to the floor, pulling my knees to my chest. I stared at my bare, swollen feet. I was completely alone. And for the very first time, being alone didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like a sanctuary. I was done. Done begging for scraps of affection. Done trying to earn my place at a table where I was never truly welcome. I sat on the floor for a long time, just listening to the familiar hum of my refrigerator. My body ached with a bone-deep exhaustion, but my mind was buzzing, coming alive. The frozen exit was complete. I was out. I was home. And I was never, ever going back. I remained on the floor of my entryway for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 20 minutes. The warmth of the floorboards gradually thawed my frozen feet. I finally pushed myself up and stumbled to the kitchen, my mouth as dry as dust. I poured a tall glass of water and drank it down in 3 long swallows. Just then, my phone vibrated inside my purse on the counter. It buzzed again, and a third time. An old, conditioned reflex made my heart leap into my throat. "Pick it up," a voice in my head screamed. "It could be an emergency. Someone might need you." I reached for my bag and pulled out the phone. The screen was lit up with a text from Eleanor. I swiped to unlock it and read her words. "Maya, you created an absolutely disgraceful scene, completely immature. You ruined a perfectly pleasant family dinner. Noah is beside himself, crying because he thinks you hate him. Do not contact us again until you are prepared to apologize to your nephew and your sister. I read it again. Apologize. I said the word aloud, and it sounded bizarre in my quiet kitchen. She wanted me to apologize. Her grandson had spat in my food. Her son had encouraged it. Her daughter had laughed, and she wanted me to apologize. The text wasn't a message. It was an invoice. It was the final receipt for 33 years of emotional blackmail. It was undeniable proof. She didn't care about my pain. She only cared that I had disrupted her carefully constructed image of a happy family. Appearances were everything to Eleanor Harrison. My feelings were collateral damage. Do not contact us again, I whispered, reading the line again. It was a bluff, and I knew it. This was her signature move. She'd give me the silent treatment for a few days, maybe a week, fully expecting me to come crawling back, bearing gifts and groveling apologies. She thought I'd be at her door by the weekend with a new toy for Noah and a bouquet of flowers for her. But she had forgotten one critical detail. I glanced at my laptop on the small dining table. She had forgotten who paid for the very data plan she was using to send me that hateful message. I walked to the table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. I flipped open the laptop, the blue light of the screen illuminating my face. I logged into my online banking portal. For the better part of a decade, I had been the family's unofficial financier. It started innocently enough. Eleanor needed help with a hospital bill. Then Leo needed a down payment for his first car. Then Chloe needed help making rent after her first marriage fell apart. I had a good job as a systems analyst. I made good money, and I shared it because I thought that's what families were supposed to do. I navigated to the recurring payments section. A long, damning list populated the screen. Eleanor's premium cable internet package, $210 per month. The Harrison family cell phone plan, $280 per month. Leo's SUV payment, $550 per month. Chloe's rent assistance, $700 per month. Noah's after-school karate classes, $250 per month. And the big one, Eleanor's mortgage auto pay, $1,400 per month. I stared at the figures. My jaw went slack. It totaled over $3,300 a month. It was more than half of my take-home pay. I drove a 10-year-old Honda so Leo could have a luxury SUV. I bought my clothes from thrift stores so Chloe could afford designer labels. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment so Eleanor could keep the sprawling family home I grew up in. I did it all because I craved their approval. I thought that by making myself indispensable, they could never discard me. But her text message was crystal clear. Do not contact us again. Okay, Mom, I said to the empty room. I'll respect your wishes. My finger hovered over the mouse. I started with the smallest one, Noah's karate. I clicked Cancel Scheduled Payment. A dialog box appeared. Are you sure? Yes, I whispered. Click. Gone. Next, Chloe's rent. She'd been looking for work for 3 years. In reality, she was just looking for a richer husband. Click. Cancel. Confirm. Gone. Next, Leo's car payment. He worshipped that SUV, polished it every weekend. He'd never once offered to so much as check the air in my tires. Click. Cancel. Confirm. Gone. Then Eleanor's bills, the cable, the internet, the phones, and finally, the mortgage. I paused on that one. That was the house where I took my first steps. It was also the house where I learned to make myself small and silent. If I canceled this, she'd get a delinquency notice within the week. She could probably cover it with her pension, but just barely. There would be no more bingo nights, no more new outfits, No more leisurely lunches with her friends. She would have to learn the meaning of the word budget. I remembered her face at the dinner table, that flicker of pride when Noah spat at me. I clicked the mouse, cancel, confirm. Payment series successfully deleted. It was finished. In less than 5 minutes, I had severed the financial lifelines that kept their comfortable world afloat. I picked up my phone. I had to reply. I needed them to know this was deliberate, not some technical glitch. I composed a new message, addressed only to my mother. Eleanor, understood. I will not contact you. As I am no longer considered part of the family, I have removed myself from the family budget. The mortgage autopay has been canceled. Leo will need to arrange his own SUV payments, and Chloe will need to cover her own rent. Good luck. I hit send. I placed the phone face up on the table and just watched it. 1 minute passed, 2, and then the eruption. The phone began to vibrate violently, buzzing and skittering across the wooden table like a trapped insect. Incoming call. Mom. I declined it. Incoming call. Chloe. I declined it. Incoming call. Leo. I declined it. Then the texts began to pour in, a rapid-fire assault. Chloe. WTF, Maya? Are you insane? Leo. You can't do this. They're going to repossess my car. Pick up your phone. Eleanor. Maya Ann Harrison, you answer me this instant. This is theft. You promised you would pay those. Chloe. You're hurting Noah. He loves his karate class. You selfish bitch. Selfish. The word made a dry, humorless laugh escape my lips. They were calling me selfish. I had subsidized their lives to the tune of over $150,000 in the last decade, and the second the money stopped, I was the selfish one. The phone continued its frantic dance, shaking with their collective fury. They weren't calling to see if I was okay. They weren't calling to apologize. They were calling because their allowances had been cut off. The truth of it hurt, a deep, resonant ache in my chest. Even now, facing the direct consequences of their actions, their only concern was for themselves. I looked at the screen one last time. A new message from Eleanor. If you don't turn those payments back on immediately, I am disowning you. I typed one final reply. I sent it only to her. You already did. Then I did the only thing left to do. I pressed and held the power button on the side of the phone. Slide to power off. My finger traced the line across the screen. The screen went black. The buzzing stopped. The silence in my apartment returned, but this time it didn't feel empty. It felt solid, protective. I looked around my simple living room at my secondhand furniture and my overflowing bookshelves. For the first time in my entire adult life, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I wasn't hoping for a thank you that was never going to come. I was alone. I was barefoot. I was cut off from them. I walked to the window and looked down at the empty street. I felt a strange lightness in my shoulders, as if a physical weight had been lifted. The weight of Leo's SUV, Chloe's rent, Eleanor's house. It was all gone. Peace. I had always believed peace was a reward for sacrifice, something you earned by being good. I was wrong. Peace was something you had to take. Peace was drawing a line in the sand and defending it. It didn't have a price. It was free. The only cost was everything I mistakenly thought I wanted. I went to my bedroom and climbed into bed, still in my day clothes. I didn't wash my face or brush my teeth. I just curled up under my heavy duvet. I knew tomorrow would be a war. I knew they would probably show up banging on my door. But for tonight, the phone was off. The Bank of Maya was officially, permanently closed. I closed my eyes. And for the first time in as long as I could remember, I fell asleep without worrying if I had done enough to be loved. I woke the next morning to a series of firm, rhythmic knocks on my door. My heart immediately started hammering. For a terrifying second, I was sure it was Leo, ready to scream at me about his precious SUV. I lay there, frozen under my covers, staring at the gray morning light filtering through the blinds. "Maya, open up. I brought scones." A long, slow breath escaped my lungs. It wasn't Leo. It was Zoe. Zoe was my cousin, my dad's brother's daughter. She was the family truth teller, the only one who saw the dysfunction for what it was. She'd stopped attending holiday gatherings years ago after my mother informed her that her career as a landscape architect was too dirty for a lady. Zoe had just laughed, wished her well, and never came back. I dragged myself out of bed, still wearing the wrinkled clothes from last night. I padded to the door and unlocked it. Zoe stood in the hallway, holding a white paper bag and 2 large coffees. Her eyes took in my disheveled state, my bare feet, my rumpled clothes. She didn't ask a single question. She just gave me a knowing nod. "Took you long enough," she said, walking past me into the kitchen and setting the coffees on the counter. "I saw the group chat drama before they kicked you out. Then I saw Chloe's passive-aggressive Facebook post about family turning their backs. I figured you'd finally detonated." I shut the door, my back sliding down it until I was sitting on the floor. "I cut them off, Zoe, all of it. I stopped every single payment." Zoe turned, her expression serious. "Everything? Like everything? The mortgage too?" "Yes." A slow, genuine smile spread across Zoe's face. "Good. Now eat a scone. We've got work to do." We spent the rest of the day purging my life. We started with the digital ties. I powered my phone back on, and it immediately began to vibrate, a 5-minute-long tantrum of missed calls and vitriolic texts. Zoe gently took the phone from my hands. "You don't need to see this poison," she said. "But what if what, Maya?" she interrupted. "What if they apologized? Do you honestly believe there's a single 'I'm sorry' in that flood of messages?" I shook my head mutely. "No. Exactly, so we're not reading them." She systematically went through my contacts, blocking Eleanor, Chloe, and Leo. She blocked their spouses and ex-spouses for good measure. She tightened all my social media privacy settings. "Digital fumigation complete," Zoe announced, handing the phone back. "Now for the physical space." My apartment, I realized, was a museum of things I didn't even like. They were all gifts or hand-me-downs from my family, items I kept to appease them. There was an awful print of a bowl of oranges in the hallway. Eleanor had given it to me, remarking that my walls were depressingly bare, like a bachelor pad. I'd always hated it. It was cheap and generic. But I kept it up because I knew she'd look for it every time she visited. "Take it down," Zoe commanded. I hesitated. "My mom loves that thing." "Does your mom live here?" Zoe asked, one eyebrow raised. "No." "Then take it down." I lifted the frame from its hook. The wall behind it was a pale, clean square. I shoved the painting into a black trash bag. The instant it was gone, the whole hallway felt more open, more like my own. We went from room to room, a 2-woman demolition crew. We found a designer sweater Chloe had given me last Christmas. It was 2 sizes too small. When I'd opened it, she'd chirped, "Maybe it'll be some motivation for you." I'd kept it in the back of my closet, a silent, woolly monument to my own body image issues. Zoe tossed it into the donate pile. "Let someone else enjoy it. You don't need your clothes to insult you." We found the old toaster Leo had given me when he upgraded. "It just shorts out sometimes," he'd said. It had been sitting on my counter for a year, taking up space. It went into the trash. The hardest part was the photo albums. I sat on the living room floor, surrounded by them. I opened the top one. There was a picture of me and Chloe at the beach, maybe 7 and 5 years old. I was holding her hand, pulling her back from the waves she was scared of. I looked so serious, so proud to be her protector. A lump formed in my throat. I really did love them, Zoe. Zoe sat down beside me, placing a warm hand on my back. I know you did, Maya. That's why this is so hard. The tragedy is that you loved them, and they loved what you provided for them. It's not the same thing. She pointed to the picture. Look, you're holding on to her, protecting her. But look at her. She's twisting away, trying to smile for the camera. Even as a kid, you were just a supporting character in their story. It's okay to grieve the family you wish you had, she said gently, but you can't keep missing the family you actually got. We didn't throw the photos away. I wasn't there yet. We packed them into a large plastic tote, and Zoe taped it shut. We'll put this in the storage closet, she said, out of sight, out of mind. Maybe someday you'll be able to look at these without it feeling like a punch to the gut, but that day isn't today. By sunset, my apartment was a mess of trash bags and donation boxes, but it felt fundamentally different. It felt lighter. The air itself seemed cleaner, easier to breathe. Zoe ordered a pizza, and we sat on the floor, eating straight from the box. So, she said, chewing thoughtfully, what are you going to do with all that extra money? What do you mean? The money, Maya. You're not bankrolling 3 other households anymore. You're about to have an extra $3,000 a month. That's a serious amount of cash. It hadn't even occurred to me. I was so conditioned to my bank account being drained to near zero every month, so used to living on a shoestring budget, not because I didn't earn enough, but because I gave it all away. I don't know, I said, the idea slowly taking root. I've always wanted to take a ceramics class, and maybe get a new car, one that doesn't have a mysterious rattling sound. Zoe grinned. Do it. Do both. It's your money, Maya. For the first time, it's really yours. After Zoe left, I walked through my transformed apartment. The ugly orange print was gone. The judgmental sweater was gone. The broken toaster was gone. The silence had returned, but it wasn't a lonely silence anymore. It was a clean slate. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. The balance was already higher than it had been in years. The mortgage payment was still there. The SUV payment was still there. I felt a tiny, unfamiliar flicker of excitement. I was 33 years old, and my life was finally my own. 2 weeks passed. They were the quietest, most peaceful 2 weeks of my adult life. I went to work, came home, made dinner for one, and slept. I had braced myself for a tidal wave of grief, but it never came. Instead, I just felt a profound, cellular-level exhaustion, as if I were recovering from a chronic, decades-long illness. My body was finally at rest after years of living in a state of high alert. The change was noticeable. My boss, a kind man named Mr. Davies, stopped by my desk. "You seem different, Maya," he said. "Lighter. Did you get a new haircut?" "No," I replied. "I just put down a heavy weight." He looked a bit confused but smiled anyway. "Well, whatever it is, it suits you." I had foolishly thought the worst was over, that they would simply fade away. I was wrong. The first attack came on a Tuesday afternoon. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My stomach lurched. I knew I shouldn't, but morbid curiosity won. I opened the message. Noah cried himself to sleep last night. His class went on a field trip to the aquarium, and he couldn't go. The school fee was $50. We didn't have it. Hope you're happy breaking a little boy's heart. It had to be Chloe using a friend's phone. My stomach twisted into a knot. The aquarium trip. I remembered Noah talking about it, How excited he was to see the Shark Tank. $50. It was nothing. If I'd known, I would have paid it in a second. I didn't want Noah to suffer. He was a child, and his cruelty was learned, not innate. I sat at my desk, feeling a wave of cold, sticky guilt wash over me. I was the monster. I was the one with the savings account. Why couldn't I have just paid for the trip? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to ask for a link to the school's payment portal. But then I stopped myself. Hold on. Leo drove a brand new SUV. Chloe got her nails refilled every 2 weeks, which had to be at least $70 a pop. Eleanor went to the casino with her friends every Friday night. Between the 3 of them, they couldn't scrape together $50. They had 2 weeks' notice that the money was cut off. They could have skipped one dinner out. Chloe could have waited a week for her manicure. Leo could have washed his own damn car. They didn't. They chose not to pay. They deliberately let Noah miss his trip so they could use his disappointment as a weapon against me. The calculation of it made my hands start to shake again, but this time with rage. I wasn't the one who had failed Noah. They were. I deleted the text and blocked the number. Nice try, I whispered to the empty office. But they were just getting warmed up. 3 days later, Zoe called. Her voice was strained. Maya, whatever you do not go on Facebook. Why? What happened? Just trust me. Stay off of it. It's a cesspool. Of course I looked. I logged into a burner account I kept for situations just like this and searched for Chloe's profile. There it was, a publicly shared GoFundMe campaign. The title was Help the Harrison Family Through a Cruel Betrayal. The photo was a professionally sad-looking picture of Noah staring down at his shoes. It was so obviously staged it was laughable. I clicked and read the description. Hi everyone. As some of you may know, our family has fallen on unexpectedly hard times. My son Noah is struggling. His father and I are working hard, but we were recently and cruelly abandoned by a close family member who had been our primary financial support. We were completely blindsided. We are now struggling to pay for Noah's tutoring, his school activities, and even his basic medical care. We are terrified we might lose our home. Any little bit helps. Please don't let our innocent child suffer because of one person's selfish choices. My jaw dropped, abandoned, cruelly, selfish. She hadn't used my name, but in our small suburban world, everyone knew. Everyone knew I was the successful one, the one who helped out. I scrolled down to the comments. OMG, Chloe, I'm so sorry you're going through this. How could someone do that to a child? Sending prayers. Some people are just born without a heart. Is she talking about Maya? I always thought she was a little cold. Donated $25. Stay strong, Mama. They were monetizing my name, painting me as a villain to get sympathy cash from strangers. I felt a hot, burning shame creep up my neck. I wanted to scream. I wanted to post my bank statements, screen capping the thousands upon thousands of dollars I had poured into their lives. I wanted to post a photo of the spit-covered mashed potatoes. I grabbed my phone to call Zoe. I saw it, I said, my voice trembling. I'm going to comment. I'm going to tell everyone the truth. No, Zoe said, her voice firm. You will do no such thing. That's exactly what they want. They want a public fight. They want to drag you down into the mud so you look as crazy as they are. But they're lying. They're making money off of me. Let them, Zoe said. Maya, listen to me. If you engage, you look defensive. If you stay silent, you look dignified. The people who actually matter, the ones who truly know you, they already know the truth. And the opinions of random Facebook acquaintances don't pay your bills. It just hurts, Zoe. I know it hurts. It's a classic smear campaign. It's what toxic people do when they can't control you anymore. They try to control how other people see you. It's a power play. I looked at the screen again. The donation total had ticked up to $350. They are selling their dignity for a few $100s, Zoe said, her voice filled with pity. That's how desperate they are. It's not powerful, Maya. It's pathetic. She was right. It was utterly pathetic. Chloe, a grown woman, was cyber begging instead of updating her resume. Leo was letting his sister solicit donations instead of trading in his expensive car. And Eleanor was allowing them to use her grandson as a sympathy prop. I closed the laptop. You're right, I said, my voice steadier. I'm not saying a word. Good. Now come over tonight. We'll order Indian food and make fun of a terrible reality show. Okay. I hung up and sat in the quiet of my kitchen. The anger was still there, but it was cooling, hardening into something else. Pure disgust. I used to admire my sister. I used to crave her approval. Now I just felt a profound pity for her. She was a grown woman, still playing the victim because she didn't want to get a job. I walked to the trash and saw a crumpled napkin on the floor, something I'd missed during the big purge. I picked it up and threw it away. They could have their Facebook likes. They could have their pity donations. I had my life. But as I lay in bed that night, a tiny worm of worry burrowed into my brain. The post had mentioned medical needs. I had assumed it was a lie, just another fabrication like the field trip. But what if it wasn't? What if Noah was actually sick? I pushed the thought away. It's a lie, I told myself. It's just more bait. I fell asleep, but my dreams were full of anxiety. I dreamt of Noah, small and pale in a hospital bed, reaching out a hand while I drove past in a shiny new car. The guilt campaign wasn't working on my bank account, but it was finding the cracks in my heart. And they knew it. They knew exactly where to aim their next shot. The text arrived 3 days after the GoFundMe went live. It was late, close to midnight. It was Chloe. Maya, Noah is sick. He has to have surgery on his ear. We lost our state health insurance because Leo worked too much overtime last month, and we don't have private insurance yet. The hospital is demanding a deposit. Please, I don't care if you hate me. Just help him. Don't let him be in pain because of us. I sat up in the dark, staring at the glowing screen. My first instinct was, lie. My second was, block. But then a memory surfaced, sharp and clear. I remembered the terrible ear infections Noah used to get as a toddler. I remembered rocking him for hours, a warm cloth pressed to the side of his head because Chloe was too exhausted to deal with his crying. I remembered the sheer agony he was in. I switched on my bedside lamp. It's a trap, I whispered to myself. It's another trap. But what if it wasn't? What if a 9-year-old boy was in real pain and his parents were too proud or too incompetent to handle it? I didn't text Chloe back. Instead, I got out of bed and went to my laptop. I knew the name of their pediatrician. It was Dr. Miller at the community clinic. I had paid enough of their copays there over the years. I waited until morning. At 8:01 a.m., I called the clinic. Hi, my name is Maya Harrison. I'm Noah Harrison's aunt. I'm calling about a billing issue for an upcoming procedure. The receptionist was hesitant. I'm sorry, I can't give out patient information without parental consent. I understand, I said, keeping my voice calm and businesslike. I don't need any medical details. I just need to confirm the deposit amount for the procedure. I'm the one who will be paying it. There was a pause, then the sound of typing. Oh yes, the mastoidectomy. The surgical deposit is $2,800. It's due by this Friday before the surgery. My chest tightened. It was real. Eli needed surgery, and it was serious. And knowing Leo and Chloe, they didn't have $28 in savings, let alone $2,800. I closed my eyes. I could say no. I could say it wasn't my problem. I could let them figure it out. Maybe Leo would finally have to sell his precious SUV. Maybe Eleanor could cash in a savings bond. But that would take time, and the surgery was in 2 days. If they missed the deadline, Noah would have to wait, possibly for weeks. He'd be in pain. This wasn't for Chloe. It wasn't for Eleanor. It was for the little boy who used to fall asleep on my shoulder before his parents taught him to see me as a target. "Okay," I said to the receptionist, "I'm going to pay a portion of that deposit right now over the phone." "Oh, that's wonderful of you," she said, her voice brightening. "I'm paying exactly $1,120, I stated. $1,120? She repeated, confused. "Yes, that's 40%. The surgery is for a child who has a mother and a father. I am the aunt. I will cover my share plus a little extra, but I'm not covering all of it. His parents will need to come up with the rest." I gave her my credit card number. The payment was processed. "Please inform Chloe Harrison that 40% of the deposit has been covered," I said. "And please let her know that the remaining balance is her and her husband's responsibility." I hung up the phone. I felt a bizarre mix of relief and fury. I had broken my own rule. I had opened my wallet. But I hadn't opened it all the way. I had forced them to have skin in the game. If they wanted their son to get the care he needed, they would have to find $1,680. It was a stretch, but it was doable. They could sell things. They could ask for an advance. They could humble themselves. I didn't text Chloe. I didn't text Eleanor. I simply went to work. That evening, I was rinsing dishes when my phone buzzed. It was a voicemail. The caller ID said, "Mom." I hesitated, then pressed play and held the phone to my ear. Her voice was small and shaky. "Maya, it's me. The clinic called. They told us what you did." She paused, and I heard a wet sniffle. We were panicking. Leo was trying to sell his golf clubs online, but it wasn't going to be enough. I didn't think you would help. Not after everything. Not after what Noah did. Another long pause. "I know we haven't been fair to you, Maya. I know we take you for granted. Today, you didn't have to do that. And you did. So, thank you. Just thank you. I think I've been wrong about some things." The message ended. I stood in my kitchen holding a dripping plate. There was no "I'm sorry." There was no "we love you." But she had admitted to being wrong. For Eleanor Harrison, that was the emotional equivalent of moving a mountain. I didn't call her back. I didn't text. I just saved the voicemail. It wasn't forgiveness, not even close. But it felt like a tiny crack had appeared in the massive wall between us. And through that crack, I saw a flicker of something I hadn't seen from her in a very, very long time. Respect. They respected my boundary. They respected me, not because I had caved and given them everything, but because I had offered help on my own terms. I finished the dishes, my movements slow and deliberate. I felt strangely lighter. I had helped Noah, but I had not rescued his parents. I had let them carry their own weight, and for the first time, it seemed like they were actually trying to lift it. 3 days after Noah's surgery, I came home from work to find a cardboard box on my doormat. It was a plain, brown box, sealed with masking tape. My name, Maya, was written on top in a familiar, messy scrawl. It was Chloe's handwriting. My stomach did a nervous flip. Was this a trick? A box full of their unpaid bills? A collection of trash? I carried it inside and set it on the kitchen table, regarding it with suspicion. I grabbed a utility knife and sliced through the tape, then opened the flaps. It wasn't garbage, it was my past. On top was a stack of my childhood photo albums, the ones that had always lived at my mother's house. Beneath them were old framed school pictures, my high school honor roll certificates, my college diploma, and a small, lopsided clay pot I'd made for my mother in second grade. I picked up the pot. It was painted a garish combination of blue and yellow. It was clumsy and ugly, but my mother had kept it on her kitchen windowsill for 25 years. I was sure she'd thrown it out when I stopped paying her mortgage. Digging deeper, I found handmade Christmas ornaments, my medal from a regional swim meet, my favorite stuffed animal. They were returning my history to me. At the very bottom of the box, there was a plain white envelope. I picked it up and tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of lined notebook paper, filled with two distinct styles of handwriting. The first part was Chloe's large, loopy script. Maya, Noah is doing okay. The surgery was a success. His hearing should be fine. We sold the SUV. Leo got a used sedan. It's ugly, but it's paid for. We paid the rest of the hospital bill. Mom was going to put all your stuff in the attic, but I told her no. I told her you should have it. You didn't deserve what we did at dinner. I was jealous. I've always been jealous of you because you have your life together and I'm such a mess. I taught Noah to be cruel to you because it made me feel bigger. I know that's twisted. We were wrong. I'm sorry. Below her words, in a stiff, almost illegible scrawl, was a note from Leo. Thanks for the ear money. I shouldn't have laughed. It wasn't funny. Sorry. There were no signatures, just the unvarnished truth. I set the letter down on the table. I waited for a flood of tears, for a dramatic cathartic breakdown. But the tears didn't come. Instead, a profound sense of quiet settled over me. They had admitted it. Chloe admitted her jealousy. Leo admitted he was wrong. They had sold the truck. They had actually made a sacrifice for their own child. They were finally growing up. And they were doing it because I had forced them to. I looked at the little clay pot. This box wasn't a peace offering designed to lure me back into their lives. If they wanted to manipulate me, they would have held these things hostage. Returning them was an act of severance. It was an acknowledgement that my life and my history was my own. They were respecting my exit. I didn't reply to the letter. I didn't call to thank them. It wasn't necessary. The silence between us had shifted. It was no longer an angry, resentful silence. It was a respectful distance. I carried the box into my living room. I didn't hide it in a closet. I took the little clay pot and placed it on my own windowsill. I took my swimming medal and hung it from the corner of a mirror. These were my things, pieces of my story. For so long, they had belonged to Maya, the daughter, the one who existed to serve the family. Now they belonged to Maya, the woman, the one who stood on her own. I sat on my couch and looked at the pot. It looked right there. And I realized, with a jolt, that I didn't hate them anymore. The white-hot anger that had fueled me for weeks was finally dissipating, replaced by something softer. Pity? A little? Hope? A tiny sliver? But mostly it was a sense of closure. They were over there, living their lives, figuring out how to get by without my wallet, and I was over here, living mine. I picked up my phone. I didn't text them. I texted Zoe. Maya, they sent me a box and a letter. They apologized. Zoe, seriously? Holy crap, are you okay? Maya, yeah, I'm okay. I think I'm actually better than okay. Zoe, good. Just keep moving forward, Maya. Keep walking. I put the phone down. I was moving forward, but for the first time, I wasn't running away from something. I was just walking, steady and sure. I went to the kitchen and made a cup of tea. I drank it standing, looking out the window at the evening sky. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. I was whole. Weeks melted into months. Life found a new rhythm, one that was quiet and predictable. Eleanor sold the big family house. It was too much for her to keep up on her own, and without my financial contributions, it was an impossible expense. She bought a small, two-bedroom condo just a few blocks from my apartment. She didn't ask for my help moving. She hired a company and paid for it herself. Chloe was still working at the grocery store. She'd been promoted to a department manager. She always looked tired, but she also seemed lighter, no longer chasing a lifestyle she couldn't afford. She was just living her life. Landon was working 2 jobs. He kept his distance, mostly out of shame, I suspected. But when I saw him at Eleanor's for a brief, awkward Easter visit, he looked me in the eye and offered a firm handshake. It was enough. As for me, I had switched jobs, moving to a smaller tech firm where Zoe's husband worked. It was less pay, but infinitely less stress. I had time to breathe. I was still taking that ceramics class. My creations were mostly lumpy, misshapen things, but I loved the feel of the clay, the simple joy of making something just for myself. One Saturday afternoon, I was sitting on my small balcony, reading a book, when my phone buzzed. It was a picture message from an unknown number, but I recognized Chloe's number from the area code. It was a photo of a clay pot, lopsided and painted bright green. A second text followed. He made this in his art class. He said, "Tell Aunt Maya we can make ugly pots together sometime." I smiled, a real, unforced smile. I typed back, "Tell him it's a date." I put the phone down and looked out at the budding trees. I thought about that awful night at the dinner table. The spit, the laughter, the cold, barefoot walk to my car. It felt like it had happened to someone else in another lifetime. I had lost my family that night, but in losing them, I had found myself. And in finding myself, I was slowly, carefully allowing them to find me again. Not as the pillars of my life, but as visitors who had to ring the doorbell and wait to be invited in. Forgiveness, I was learning, wasn't one big cinematic moment. It wasn't a tearful group hug set to swelling music. Forgiveness was this. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, a cup of tea, a text message you were happy to receive. It was the knowledge that my phone might ring, and that I and I alone had the power to decide whether to answer. It was the long, painful walk home to myself. And finally, I was there. I closed my book and took a deep, clean breath of the spring air. I was Maya Harrison. I was a daughter, a sister, and an aunt. But for the first time, I was primarily, unequivocally, myself. And that was the best story I could have ever written. A week later, I found an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp. Someone had dropped it off. Inside was a piece of folded construction paper. I opened it. It was a drawing from Noah. It showed 2 stick figures. One was tall, one was small, and they were sitting on a bench under a smiling sun. At the bottom, in a child's messy handwriting, it said, "Thank you for helping me not die." I laughed out loud, so dramatic but so sweet. The next day, a knock came at my door. It was Saturday morning. I opened it to find Chloe looking nervous and holding a small white envelope. "Can I come in?" "Just for a second," she asked. I stepped back. "Sure." She walked into my living room, her eyes darting around. She saw the clay pot on the windowsill and a small smile touched her lips. "It looks nice in here, peaceful." "It is," I said. She turned to face me, taking a deep breath. She looked so different without the heavy makeup and expensive jewelry. She looked like my sister again. "I sold my wedding ring," she blurted out. I stared at her. "Chloe, you loved that ring. I know, but I needed to pay you back." She held out the envelope. "It's not all of it, but it's $900. It's for my part of Noah's surgery. I know you said it was a gift, but I don't want it to be. I want to pay my own way." I looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "Chloe, you don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," she said, her voice firm. "I really do, Maya. I need to know that I can take care of my own son. And I need you to know that I'm not just a leech." I finally took the envelope. It was light, but it felt incredibly heavy. "Thank you," I said. Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm so sorry I was such a horrible person about everything. I know," I said softly. Can I hug you?" she asked, her voice small. I hesitated for only a second. Then I opened my arms. She hugged me tightly. She smelled of laundry soap and mint, not expensive perfume. She pulled away, wiping her eyes. Noah's in the car. He was too embarrassed to come up, but he said to wave. I walked to my window. Down in the parking lot, inside their beat-up sedan, a small hand was waving frantically from the back seat. I raised my own hand and waved back. Chloe walked to the door. "I have to go. I have a shift in an hour." "Okay," I said. "See you, Chloe. See you, Maya." She left. I held the envelope. It was a fraction of what they owed me in dollars, but it was the most valuable payment I had ever received. It was the currency of respect. I put the envelope on the counter. I decided I wouldn't spend it. I'd open a savings account with it, an education fund for Noah. But I wouldn't tell them. Not for a long time. I would let them have the pride of paying me back. Because I was learning that fixing things wasn't just about money. It was about restoring balance. And for the first time in our lives, the scales were finally starting to even out.